right, Peter, time to rock and roll, my friend. How are you today?
Doing very, very well. It's a lovely day.
Good man, good man. Well, thank you for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen who may well be watching this live or in the archive at a later date, my name's Eddie Doyle. I'm dialing in with my deft Bronx accent from New Jersey. And Peter, where are you dialing in from today, man?
Today, dialing in from the Netherlands, where I was actually born and raised.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. And Peter is our Vice President of Security Engineering for all of the territories, what we call EMA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, correct?
That is correct indeed. Just about 53 countries.
Yeah, that's right. How many countries?
53.
53 countries. How many languages?
I haven't counted that, but as it's quite diverse, it's almost a language per country.
I would think so, right? I would think
some in the East left out where they have a common language, but most of them feature their own language.
So let's say at least 48 to 50 languages out of 53 countries, right?
Probably.
That's amazing.
In Africa, there's a few countries where they predominantly either speak French or English. But mainland Europe, every country's got its own language.
Yeah, and now the challenge for managers such as yourself covering all of these countries. We are recording this in March of 2022, and so although this subject will be talking about our cyber report, our security report, but our hearts, we want to say, go out to all of our friends in both the Ukraine and Russia. We have employees, your team members there, Peter. So we want to make sure everybody is safe. We're thinking about them. And, we love our employees, right? We love our team members.
Absolutely.
And that's all we have to say about that.
Challenging times, for sure.
Yeah, I feel for you, man. Well, listen, well done. Stand strong. And today we want to talk about the security report. So every year, but I say this every year, Peter, I say it's been an unprecedented year of cyber attacks the previous year. If it's unprecedented every year, it's not unprecedented, is it? So, let's just start there. Our security report, which, ladies and gentlemen, you can find at Checkpoint. And Peter, have you seen the dynamic version at go.checkpoint?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's quite cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. In fact, I'm going to bring it up on my screen now just to show people. So this is the PDF copy that you can all get your hands on, ladies and gentlemen. But I do want to show you this, because we created a dynamic version, go.checkpoint.com, and I think you have to just go /security-report. There it is. I hope you can see what I'm doing on my screen there. It's a little small, and there it is. This is a great document, Peter, I think, for people to help educate their organization about. And before you comment on that, I want to say hello to John, who's dialing in to us today. John, thank you very much. Good to see you too. John's one of our team members, correct? In Europe? Maybe not.
Well, there is a John for sure. In absence of a last name, I don't know.
Kowalczyk. I don't know if you're looking at the screen there, but I just pulled up the comment. Thank you, John, for dialing in. Please add your commentary, your questions. Anything goes. This is an Ask Me Anything where we want to discuss our security report. So, Peter, let's start with this. Any favorite sections of the security report? Anything that really leapt out at you? Another unprecedented year. What is it?
Well, the big thing that's really driving me and the conversations with our customers is the fact that this was the year of the actual supply chain attack. And that may sound like, oh, well, it was a clever attack and people found a new way in, but it's dramatically exposing our inability to respond when they happen. So the one key element that I learned from supply chain attacks is the fact that once people find a foothold and they get an entry inside of your network, they start moving around laterally. And I started embedding in my questions that I ask customers, suppose somebody got a foothold into somewhere in your network. Do you have a panic button to smash and prevent that lateral movement and that elevation of rights or the detection of unexpected behavior because the application is no longer doing what it's supposed to be doing? And it's a stunning amount of customers that look at me a bit puzzled and like, we actually don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it really triggers very good conversations around, so talk to me about your architecture and talk to me what is important. And also acknowledging that this is not easy because it's almost like implementing zero trust and going down into the rights level per application, per identity, per almost atomic element within the network, and that's super tough. And customers look at that thinking, "There's no way I can pull that off. There's no way I can get it done." And they almost look at it like I'm asking them to boil the ocean and raise it with 3 degrees faster than the climate is doing at the moment, which is a big ask.
Right.
And the reality is, it doesn't have to be like that. We can really help them start with simple stuff. And I joined Checkpoint back in 2000, and we were talking about yeah, I know, I'm old. And back then we were talking about segmentation. Guess what we're talking about today?
Yeah, right.
When we're talking about zero trust implementation, what's the first step you can take? Add some segments. Identify what traffic flows you expect and which you don't, and then the ones you don't allow them. Start with that, and then start bringing in identities and slowly build up towards a more trustworthy environment. Because it's now painfully been disclosed that if you don't, I think our research in the report said 48% of organizations have been targeted with the Log4j remote exploit. That's 48% of all the organizations we managed to track. So that's 1 in 2. Right. If I talk to any CISO asking them, are they odds that you want to take on? They're like, nah, we're not going there. That's not okay. That's way too risky.
Right.
And then we need to start to engage in that conversation that says, whatever you did in the past. In my early days in Checkpoint, I was a trainer before I joined Checkpoint on the technology. And we trained people about this approach that says, there's the good guys and there's the bad guys. And we cut the wire in between and we put a security gateway in the middle. And then we can differentiate. We can segment between good and bad. And a lot of networks are still based on that premise. It's still the castle and moat type of approach, or the part that we trust and the part that we don't trust. But the reality is that the trusted part isn't all that trusted anymore. And it's not because your users are malicious, because it's bloody tough to keep up patching everything and anything, assuming there's no 0 days out there.
Right.
Because 0 days will always get to you, even if you have perfect patch management. So apologizing to yourself and saying, I'm okay because I patch very diligently, that's a great step, a great starting point, and a part of a good policy to run your applications in the network, but it doesn't cut it.
Wow.
And on top of that, I think we've also seen, which is also in the report, that cloud environments are now actively being attacked. And this is both the infrastructure, so people are both attacking AWS and Azure. Next to that, we also see that people are attacking applications. And the reason is quite simple. There is a new vector that is not part of our best practices today. And the vector is that the application is no longer built by networking people. They think differently about consumption, about deployment, about automation, and they run it in a different context. And it's fluid and it's dynamic and everything's different.
Peter, this is real meat and potatoes stuff that you're giving us here. This is not just a salad you're throwing down on the table. So well done. This is great. I do a lot of these, so thank you. I want to get to some comments in a second, and then I want to come back to 2 things. One, it seems like a Herculean task for people to go through all these applications and figure out their security and start segmenting. And 2, you mentioned early on, do you have that panic button? Does that reflect that people don't have a living, breathing disaster recovery plan? Let's get to some comments real quick. Now, I thought this gentleman was coming in from Europe. Actually, John's one of my colleagues in America. John, my friend, well done. Yeah, you got me with your last name. I wasn't thinking straight. So, John, thanks for joining, an early riser in the United States. Maybe we've got some folks closing down for the day in Europe. This is from Juliana. Thank you. Is it Juliana? I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Good morning from Juliana Checkpoint in Latin America. Early risers. Where's our European crowd? And then we've got Max. This better be a European name because I'm not pronouncing the last name here. Max Kleisenbach. They have some serious hacking attack yesterday. That was based on a comment that you were making a little before. Max, thank you. Let's bring in more comments, ladies and gentlemen. Questions and morning from Texas. It's all it's all US following here. We're gonna bring you over to America. I'm gonna go to Europe, and then we'll do another one, and we'll get the European crowd. So Peter, you mentioned people don't have that panic button. What is that panic button? And does that reflect that people don't have a strong disaster recovery plan, in your opinion?
I'm not even sure if it's disaster recovery, because disaster recovery is perceived as a very heavy thing. It's like the building exploded. Do you have a disaster recovery plan to bring everything back up again? Which is a lot more than an incident happening within the network. So incident response, I do think customers have plans for that today, but they're very reactive, and quite often it's the ability to respond is based on the speed in which you can analyze the data that you get from various sources. So quite often we see people are running a CM or they're running a SOC, and at some point, I mean, people gotta divide their time across the amount of work that's out there. So elements are scheduled when it's being reviewed. And obviously you need to deal with incidents, but you can only deal with an incident if you know that it's happening. Now, the question that I often ask customers is, if I bring you an incident right now, can you prevent the spread within your network without jumping through hoops? Can you somehow automate, or can you actually look at me and say, you know what, it's okay. The traffic is contained. Yes, I lost a segment of my network, but I didn't lose my whole network. And with many of the customers that I speak to, they explain to me that on a routing level, so on a layer 3 level, it's a flat network. And OSPF is king, or BGP is king. And it's all around connectivity, because people should be able to communicate. And at some point, we will start doing access control. I'm still baffled by the amount of people that tell me, I'm running firewalling, and at some parts of the network, we have some IDS. And I thought that was 10 years old, but it's still happening today. And if I ask those customers, real time, it's happening right now, what can you do? They're like, well, nothing much. We would have to go back to the centralized firewall, and hopefully the traffic will arrive and needs to be routed through the firewall. But if it's local in segment or between segments where we don't have any security controls, there's nothing we can do. The beauty, looking forward, because there is a light at the horizon, the beauty is that the more forward-leaning customers are investigating escaping that almost physically confined networking environment. So if you think about how we built networks in the past, it was really based on switches and routers, and then we cut wires and we put firewalls in between. And today, where our people are going cloudy, and a common misconception is that cloud is only at Azure or AWS. It's happening in data centers as well, because the technique to do cloud is to disconnect the physical networking from how you distribute an application across the physically connected networking. And that approach is called software-defined networking, which is by default what you do in public clouds, but it also happens in private clouds. That is a massive promise, if you think about it, provided you've mapped out, what are we doing here? So if you mapped out, what are my applications, who are the typical users, who needs access, and where does it go, you can define a policy that says, this is the only thing that goes. And if you need more, you need to request, you need to get elevated rights. And those things can also be automated, but they're not allowed by default. And that allows you to sit in the driver's seat much more, down to, hey, if the panic is happening, you can look back at me and say, well, that's not expected to work.
Right,
In more legacy networks, everything works unless you prohibit it. And the whole approach should slowly start turning around. Nothing's allowed unless implicitly proven that we should trust you.
And moving architecture to the cloud is probably a nice opportunity to clean shop, right? I mean, I certainly hope they do. Let me get to some comments here, because LinkedIn user is Bob Henderson. So I've got sometimes my software obfuscates that, but I see it on my phone here. Bob, thank you for dialing in. Great to see you. Now let's see here. We've got Philadelphia. You've got a great US following, Peter. I don't know why, my friend. You run 53 countries in your territory, and it's the US that's dialing in to listen to you today. I think that's great. Here we go from the Netherlands. So who's this from the Netherlands? This is Antoinette Hodes from the Netherlands. Thank you very much, Antoinette, for dialing in. Let's see here. And yeah, I pronounced Juliana's last name correctly, so nailed it. Hey, I'm a European with et ma mère est française, alors voilà. And glad to be here from John. I'm going to go with Jose, John Jose. And Oh wow, this is a great name here. This has got to come from your territory, my friend. So
Looks like
Amadou Kambinda. Madhu, thank you so much for dialing in. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Great to be selected for this event, which is very important. Thank you, my friend. That's very kind of you. Very sweet. Let's see. We've got Javier dialing in. Hello, Javier from Spain. All right. The Europeans, they're still at their desks.
Hola. They're waking up.
Well,
right after lunch.
At their desks in the evening, exactly. And although it's not quite evening, we got Angola dialing in today as well. So wonderful.
Okay.
Oh, that's Abadou from Angola. Zero Trust, an exclamation point for Zero Trust, a fan of Zero Trust here in Juliana. The Italians, our Italian colleagues or friends are dialing in, or customers. Thank you very much for being here today. And Sri Lanka, a truly global audience for Peter today. So wonderful.
Sweet.
Thanks everybody for dialing in. I hope this dialogue gives you great substance. It certainly has me so far. Okay, so it's an opportunity for people to reconsider security as more and more, well, we've moved to the cloud. Let's talk a little bit about DevSecOps, right? So we recently made an acquisition of Spectra, a wonderful little company, in order to help us cure the problem of, okay, I'm gonna go for it, but then Peter, I want you to really give me the meat. I'll do the salad. Here's the appetizer.
Okay.
on what we did with this acquisition, and then Peter's going to come in and put this amazing steak and potatoes down for everybody. So here's the salad with a little vinaigrette. So we made an acquisition of a company called Spectra, and the idea there is we were trying to understand. Look, we need to scan for secrets. It was actually the first time I heard the term scan for secrets too. This was an interesting term for me. Scanning for secrets in code of GitHub, any other repositories, in the code that you have as a customer, that your application guys are developing. And DevSecOps is to make sure that we provide security as you build. And what Spectra will do is it will automatically apply security policy to what you're building in an application. That's what I say. All right, that was the salad. Peter, let's have the main course.
Yes, so it's quite an exciting acquisition there, Eddie, because we've been investing heavily in cloud technologies. Responsible for EMEA, I started an overlay team of experts 6 years ago, figuring that this cloud move was going to be big. It's going to last for quite a while. I'm sure that for the next decade, we're going to have a hybrid environment where people are running some legacy applications and partial data centers, but part of the operation will also be cloudy. And one of the very big challenges that we've seen is actually bifold. One of them I mentioned before, which is the application developers that are in the driver's seat. They hold the budgets, and they're the ones building the business and the business flows, right. Where in the past it was the networking people. In the past we were sitting talking Cisco language. Today we're talking application language, which is quite different. So it's a whole new audience that we're speaking to. It's a different culture. I smiling with a smile on my face when I explained it initially to my colleagues was it's the suits versus the sneakers. So the suits are the old school guys coming in with a briefcase, I'm here to sell you a new network. And the guys with the sneakers are the ones running on Macs, and they got funny shirts with good good text on it. And
they talk to you like this.
Yeah, something like that. And they live in they live in the fast lane, basically. Their need to deploy is almost in hours, sometimes minutes, where network changes typically lasted for quarters on end. And massive tests and POCs and RFPs and I don't know what. None of that happens with applications. Because of that, application developers do not develop everything by themselves. It's interesting, but I still have to explain to certain CISOs, for instance, that their DevOps people are not really developing the whole application. They are creative. They will borrow pieces of code that somebody else has written in the past. And this is the promise of open source, right? It's open, everybody can review it, therefore it must be secure. Well, it's open and everybody can use it, but reality has shown it's not always secure because there could be a backdoor there and you don't know. There might be a remnant of a password with a user account that allows access into the module, giving you elevated rights. Not malicious by nature, it just happens. Also, developers, they will take shortcuts because they're humans. So they will run in test mode, and they will just for ease sake, not having to use a password manager, leave the key to authenticate against the whole project in there for now as a documentation type of thing, and then forget about it. That, of course, is lethal if you're running an application like that, as anybody could find that key. And it's not just about losing the one application. The thing is that quite often behind those applications, there's a backend. There's an automation backend. There's a monitoring backend. So getting access, being the owner of the application, also allows you to communicate with that backend. That allows you to kind of crawl back up the CI/CD pipeline and say, I can find my way to your automation server. And potentially, remember SolarWinds, I can create a package that I will now sign with your automation server, and it will be trusted by your whole environment. And that will be spread as being a trusted environment, while at the same time, the malware or the backdoor or whatever might be in it, and you wouldn't have a clue because everything was trusted. So what Spectral particularly is looking for is, from an early stage, really recognizing that how DevOps people work, from an early stage, start scanning the code and setting the minimum requirements, and also on an ongoing basis, trying to figure out, did anybody leave any keys anywhere? That secret hunting is much like threat hunting. If you think about it from the more classic network security environments,
right.
We're on the hunt trying to find out, is something happening here that is out of the ordinary, but maybe not yet a full-blown scale exploit. And this is exactly what Spectral will allow us to do. It will allow us to go back and to shift left into how more modern organizations are working today and prevent issues from happening. And that, if you know, but maybe not the audience, that is the mantra for Checkpoint, isn't it? We prevent, we do not detect and then respond. So prevention is very much a key element, because everybody is stressed for resources and stressed for time. And detecting and having to respond is going to cost you a lot more time than the incident never having happened at all. So this is where Spectral really fits our approach to security very, very nicely, and allows us to sit in that driver's seat. Novel to Checkpoint is the fact that their base offering is freemium. Everybody can use the Spectral technology today. They can really go out, they can go to the site, they can look at whatever they're running right now without any license fees or anything to Checkpoint. If they want to have the additional feature set and the monitoring and the pro features, this is where we, in future, will start applying a license model. But for now, it already led to hundreds of thousands of downloads where people are scanning their code, trying to figure out, did I accidentally leave a secret key or a private key inside of the source code that, if anybody else finds out, would obviously be used against me.
This is amazing. Can you show me on our website, do you know if a customer wants to take a look at a dry run of Spectral, just the tool you just mentioned, how would they get in contact with us to do that? Is the tool here, or should they simply go find us through our website?
If you give me a second, I can find out about that. I think it's called spectral.io.
Okay, no worries. Let's have a little look-see while we're doing this Spectral.io. No, good. This is fantastic. This is exactly what live streams should be all about here, is to practice trying to find what our customers will go through. Now, the first thing you can do, obviously, if you go to checkpoint.com, you'll eventually figure your way through it right there. Maybe it's also based on that other website. Let's do this. Let's see if I hit our little menu and go to products, if we can search for it this way. Because this is what our customers have to do if we were going to do this. Mind you, I just X'd out on the bot. I could have asked the bot. I tell the bot to go away every time because I go to our website so much. Here, why don't you do this? You can certainly go to contact us, right? And then you'll go straight there, and you'll get a call very, very quickly. And the other thing that I'll do is I will just do Checkpoint Spectral. And what's it called? The free, whatever it is people downloading. Is there a name for it? If somebody was going to Google it, if I was going to do this live,
I think it's called Spectral.
Free download, maybe. Yeah, Spectral. But if I just Googled very quick, blah blah blah, Extending. Here we go. Spectralops.io. Is it that? Yes. All right, here we go. So this website, I imagine there's our logo all over it, or at least you can see our branding all over it, but that's the website. So spectralops.io. That's where you're going to go to do that. There you go. Request a demo. We found it all within about 30 seconds. So that's great.
And there's a GitHub repository as well. So you can go to GitHub. You can go to GitHub and download the actual the open source.
Oh, nice. Really? No kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So right there, you can get to that. There we are, Spectra Checkpoint Company. So it looks like we've made the decision to keep that website flowing right now. I imagine there's lots of people already using it, so we didn't want to give you a negative experience. Otherwise, you can likely find it through our website. And back to our security report, which we barely touched. I think we should do this. This was great. I think, Peter, this was, I mean, I'm being sincere here. This is one of my favorite sessions. And we didn't even touch the security report. This was real meat and potatoes, as I say. So actually,
we did touch on the security report, Eddie, because we spoke about malware, we spoke about cloud, we spoke about supply chain attacks. So all of that is actually featured in the whole report.
That's right. You can't probably see it here. It's too small, but I just clicked on the menu. Exactly. So we've got entire chapters dedicated to this. But I'm thinking that this is probably a great place to end our live stream today, only because I want to get you back, because that was a great conversation. So 2-3 months from now, Peter, we'd love to have you back, or any time that you want to jump on and wake up the American audience here, because clearly you've got a good following in the United States. This has been really great for me, so I much appreciate it. And let's have you back in a couple of months from now. We'll talk a little bit more. We'll see where we are in the world, yeah?
Great. Thanks for having me, Eddie. And to all the Americans, have a great day. And to all the Europeans, enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Have a good evening. Exactly. Stay right there, Peter. I'll exit us out of the live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, be safe online.